My name is Piluca and I am here in Cambridge on this fantastic event, Fashioning the Future of Medicine and Engineering, organized by the Clinical Engineering Hub. And I'm really, truly excited because this is actually down my road. It's something I've always loved to do and feel very passionate about. I lately launched my own fashion brand, which is called I Am Here to Play. And I've also dabbled a lot with my art and medicine.
We are here showing the future of medicine and engineering. So we're just showing people like the advancements and how is it going to look in the future.
My name is Sina. I run a software development agency and consulting based in Cambridge. I'm here to have a look at other engineering projects, fashioning the future of engineering.
We are a immersive entertainment company. You can find us on the 65 Regent Street and also in the High Street in Watford. We do have 30-minute, 60-minute and 90-minute sessions. You can book online and we have like 60 plus games to choose from, ages 7 and above. And also we are escape rooms. We have about 16 escape rooms that you can choose from.
Well, we're here at Fashioning the Future of Medicine and Engineering because only Dr. Sharma can pull people from these so many different worlds to come together and insist that creativity is about cooperation. So whether you're in pharmaceuticals or in engineering, if you're not being creative, you're just copying everyone else.
I seek patterns between stories and memories. I seek patterns in silences and myths, in between what is spoken and what then follows. I seek patterns in places history forgot to look, in places history told us not to look. I was born into a story that began long before me, a story of borders drawn in panic, of land split in silence. Hard-won and long-fought freedom came blood-stained. As maps redrew the meaning of home, trains arrived with no passengers, only silence, stacked bone-deep in grief. Partition, a word whispered with heartbreak. Partition, a wound carried in silence. Partition, a line that cut through land, through families, through memories itself. I grew up surrounded by beauty and brilliance that follows such shattering and reshaping. I grew up surrounded by ghosts, ghosts of erased names, of things we weren't supposed to say, of questions too dangerous to ask, ghosts of stories impossible to share. Growing up, these ghosts were everywhere, invisible yet always present. The trick was to pretend, along with everyone else, that the ghosts weren't there. The trick was not to look at them straight. The trick was not to see the storm held in the lullaby, silenced, impossible to sing. The trick was not to see the memories, lost centuries, impossible to touch. Not to see the people gone forever into a fog impossible to lift. But here's the thing, those ghosts aren't just stories. They live in us. They shape us in ways we cannot always see. The incredible insight of Robert Sapolsky, a Harvard neuroscientist, is that what we inherit from our parents is not just their genes, but also the patterns in which those genes are expressed. We inherit patterns of trauma. We inherit patterns of resilience. We inherit patterns of love and compassion. And these patterns come not only from our parents, they come from our grandparents, from their parents, from our tribe. And if you trace it back far enough to the small band that left Africa 70,000 years ago, from those who we are all descended, you realize how deep those threads run. Pause there for a moment. There's a whole lot of patterns. There's a whole lot of ghosts. But these ghosts don't just haunt our stories. They shape our choices. They sit inside our bodies. They move through us in ways we rarely notice. This is where I will now have Sapolsky dismantle the idea of free will. You make a choice right now. Why? Because of how your neuron fired a second ago. Why did they fire that way? Because of the hormone levels and sensory inputs of the last minute, hours. Why those hormone levels? Because of your childhood experiences, your stress responses, your genetic inheritance. But why those? Because of what your parents and your ancestors experienced. And why those? Because of evolutionary pressures stretching back millions of years. It is an unbroken causal chain. It is turtles all the way. In relinquishing the idea of free will, we finally see the weight of what we've been sold. The idea that we are fully in control. We are told everything is our choice if we only had enough grit, if we only had enough drive, then we too shall succeed. But that's a very heavy burden. Guilt, pride, shame, fear, they ride the coattails of free will. And in the end, it all turns out to be false. But perhaps that frees us. If not everything is our choice, then we are not alone in the making of reality. We are part of something larger, a pattern woven across many layers. Look closely and you begin to see it. Reality itself shaped by layers of organization. Reality itself shaped by layers of pattern. Electrons spin, elements bond, chemicals react, compounds build, cells awaken, we emerge, and systems beyond us unfold. When we step back from these layers, we begin to glimpse ourselves reflected in them. Across all these layers, one truth holds. Connection, collaboration, and response to one another are what shape reality. From the quantum to the cosmic, we are always entangled in relation, becoming through interaction. It is only natural then that when we build a new kind of intelligence that echoes the same relational patterns we are made of. In creating artificial intelligence, we begin to see ourselves in its reflection that we too are pattern-seeking, living language machines. And it has always been our ability to see patterns, to make sense of them, to reimagine them, and when we are ready to break them open and build something new. Whether through scientific inquiry, artist expression, or historical reflection, all human knowledge begins here, with curiosity tracing the invisible threads that bind seemingly separate things. Science deciphers. It looks into the hidden mechanisms of the universe, from the dance of electrons to the spirals of galaxy, and asks, how does this work? It maps patterns into laws, draws order from chaos, and dares to hold the unknown to the fire of inquiry. Art reveals. It enters where equations end, into the felt sense of wonder, grief, awe. Art gives form to the inexpressible, carving emotion into matter, turning insight into dream, reminding us not just of what is true, but what it means to feel the truth. History. Now history connects. It traces patterns from the past to the present, showing us how every moment is both an ending and a beginning, an echo and a seed. It reveals the cycles we are caught in, the stories we inherit, the patterns replaying until they are named. Together, these three pattern-seeking voices, science, art, history, turn complexity into clarity, making the world intelligible, inhabitable, and most of all, intimate. Together, they reframe reality as a vast, entangled web. The past is not fixed. It is a wellspring of insight waiting to be remembered. History, science, and art turn silence into signal, amplifying voices erased, translating quiet intuitions into bold insights, shaping the future through the stories we choose to honor. Together, they allow us to see reality not as fixed or fragmented, but as alive, interwoven, and open to transformation. In a world that often rewards reductionism, pattern seeking is an act of resistance. It is a return to wholeness, a refusal to sever what belongs together. Through this lens, progress is not just invention or advancement, it is integration, a widening of what we see, a softening of how we see it. To seek patterns is not just to understand, it is to participate in remaking reality. Each time we link past to present, myth to method, we stitch together the stories that carried us with the practices that now sustain us. And the ghosts we carry, those silences, those erased names, those impossible to speak stories, they become portals. They become doorways into memory, into resilience, into futures that remember what was forgotten. In a world where AI and smartphones place infinite information in the palm of our hands, knowledge itself can no longer be the measure. It is about knowing what questions to ask of the past. It is about what patterns we will seek next. It is about the wonder we will keep alive. It is about the future we will leave. Because every child is already a pattern seeker, in clouds, in laughter, in spaces between words. And if we follow their curiosity with our ghosts as guides, we may yet weave a world that feels whole, alive, and ours.